Welcome to the Kontent Rocks podcast, the show about all things Kontent.ai, .net, and Azure for people who want to learn more about headless technology. And now, here's your host, Brian McKeiver.
All right. Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Kontent Rocks podcast. This is Brian McKeiver, your host. And I am joined today by a very good friend of mine and actually the VP of Product at Kontent.ai, Martin Michalik. Martin, how are you doing, sir?
Hey, Brian. Hello, everyone. I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
I am too. It's crazy. We've known each other for many years at this point. I don't even know how many years, but this is literally the first time I've actually gotten you to join the show. And it makes me very happy. It makes me smile on the inside even. Because I think you've got some really interesting things that you can add to the Kontent Rocks podcast and talk about. So, in fact, we're gonna dive right into the meat of the episode. And our episode today is all about why we both feel that making AI useful is more than just using Chat GPT and generative AI in a different browser. And in fact, I'm going to ask you to show us in the audience how you envision AI kind of taking over the product of Kontent.ai. Maybe you can talk about where it's going, what's coming up in the future, what is about to be released, because everyone is asking me that in the community, and that's the inspiration for this episode, right? It's something that it's everywhere. I mean, in fact, I was at a digital marketing conference earlier this week, and almost every single session mentioned AI. And I think you've been at some events lately too, right, Martin?
Yes. We've done a couple of shows recently, and it was similar experience to yours. Everyone is asking about it. Everyone wants to know more, but it is still a mystery to a lot of people what AI can achieve and how it can literally transform the whole content management.
Yeah. In fact, as we were preparing for the show just now, right, we were talking about like it's surprising that we go to these shows and it seems like the parts of the presentations that people are taking the most out of is like the basic 101, what is a Chat GPT or what is an assistant and how do I use it? And as we're both technical people, we're like 13 plus months into this, and it's surprising, but maybe it's just the state of where we are with things, right? That was your experience, I think, that you had too.
Yeah, it was my experience as well. So you have people asking about, so how do I utilize it in our organization? How do I get my team on board of AI? Because what I saw today was really amazing. And it always surprises me because, as mentioned, we've been into this 30 months now, and the evolution of what you can do with these tools is incredible. If you just look at the image generation tools, how far they've got from the initial point where it was all blurry and horrible images. Now you can get really photo quality pictures for your content within just 5 seconds. It's crazy. And so for many people, I believe there's still a lot of unknowns, and they don't even realize the potential of the transformation because they just focus on the first initial step, which is just, hey, it can generate and write content for me, which is honestly, I don't believe this is the biggest benefit of OpenAI.
Right. I think it's something that it's an easy learning curve to see that first thing of I'm going to write a simple phrase and it's going to make me 7 paragraphs of text on my subject, and people will get to that quickly and they'll be very excited about it. There's also the aspect of you got to make sure you're using it responsibly, which I know Kontent.ai is working on quite a bit, and so are we at Bitstream, to try to educate marketers and even customers that there's this whole idea of accuracy and quality and reliability that you want to have when you use these tools. So you can't just like blindly trust it is one of the big messages that I know we've both been saying. But I'm most interested if you could share with our audience, like once we get into it, once we get that comfort level on generative AI, just the basics in my mind, how can we solve real world challenges with content editors and authors, and how are you going to do that in the product? Because I think we need to take the next step to making it where it is something that's truly saving us time or enhancing the quality of the content that we deliver. So I know you've got a couple things prepared. I'm excited to see those things because
Allow me just few words before that. So
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Really frame it. So
Mhm.
today, as you mentioned, many people just think, hey, it can help me write article or blog post based on a simple prompt. Definitely it can, but it will very likely to be generic and bland, because your prompt is going to be very generic, because it's going to be your first interaction with the system, right? So, but content is just more than writing. Content is about consistency. Writing content is about consistency, it's about efficiency, and it's about many steps in the process. Especially if you think about for large organizations, there are hundreds of people sometimes involved in the whole process. They manage content across multiple sites, they manage content across different channels, and sometimes getting a simple content out can take up to several weeks, because it needs to be translated, it needs to be checked with legal, it needs to be checked against brand guidelines, and the workflow can be massive. And one of the ways how you can think about the transformative potential of AI is to really think, what are all the steps that can be either completely eliminated because they are manual and they don't have to happen at all, or they can be rapidly reduced in time needed to be invested in these steps. So this is how we think about our product. And honestly, in the long term, I believe that the whole experience that you know today, with working with any CMS, that you have to create the model, then you have to fill it in, then you have to go with all the different steps in the workflow. We just aim to make this obsolete. We want to make it completely smooth, that you will just arrive at your tool and just ask it to produce a content based on some inputs, and it will get published, and you will not care about the model, you will not care about anything, and it will take you a couple seconds to get this out. So I just wanted to frame it how we think about it. Now,
Yeah, great.
what I want to show you in the couple of seconds is really what is the potential beyond just, hey, let's write 3 paragraphs about kittens. So
But what if I like kittens? I mean, let's be honest, kittens are great.
Kittens are great, and there are definitely some sites where you can learn a lot about kittens, and those will definitely utilize these capabilities as well. But if you are an enterprise company, you probably have a content about your products and about your services, so you might want to see something else.
Right. Yeah, and I think one thing I would just respond to that with is, if we truly can take the simple tasks that are repeatable, that can be systemized out of the workflow of the human and leverage AI to do that, that saves us the time to do the high level thinking, the thought leadership, the actual pitching to the end client. That then is game changing. And now we're talking about how AI is transforming our businesses, right? So if you're ready, I can join the slides and we can get going. All right, so let me hit that button. And okay, the screen is yours.
So the first thing I want to show you are actually translations, because translations are a part of almost every company that operates globally workflow. And with translations, the problem is they're costly, they take time, and sometimes they're not even accurate,
right?
Which can be mitigated to a degree. But what we've been working on is, how can you actually leverage AI to really speed up the translation, so you can get the first initial translation draft, and you can work with this. So essentially, what you can do with AI, what it allows you to do, and what you can see on the slide, is it allows you to create a version of the translated content within a few seconds. So you no longer have to wait for the translator. You don't have to pass all the information. You just press the button and it's done.
Wow.
So that's a reduction, right?
Right. Now, let me ask you this, because, obviously translation services that are machine translations have been around for years and years and years, right? We have talked to many clients who use those, and historically their problem has been that they can't understand like context and like specific culture aspects of writing. As you've been playing around with this and adding it into the prototypes and even into the product, Have you seen or heard that the accuracy has increased from what was still originally like a machine learning translation?
Yeah, absolutely. What you see actually is that the accuracy is much better these days. But I still believe that the specialized tools for translation, they still have a place in the world, especially if you're localizing more than just your content. If you need to localize your resource strings and you need to localize all the information, because this goes beyond just translating. It goes to the management of all the resources that you have everywhere, that you reuse everywhere. So it's kind of similar challenge to content management. Now, where these translations, these automated and AI driven translations have place is because not everyone has such extensive needs. So if you just need to translate the content for your website, you don't have to pay thousands of dollars to get a specialized tools. And the fact that you have it available right in the CMS where your editors work, and that you have the guarantees of the vendor that all the content stays safe, and as you mentioned, it is processed responsibly, that's a major advantage. And that's why we focused on this.
Yep. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. I think you have a few more things. You want to move on to the next one?
Really, translations was the first, probably the most easiest to show example how much it can reduce. So let me again share the screen. The next example that I wanted to show is actually again related to enterprise content, and oftentimes what you will see there are taxonomies. Taxonomies again oftentimes used to categorize content, to increase consistency, to increase reusability. And the challenge with taxonomies is that when you have 50 terms, it's quite easy to navigate within taxonomies. But imagine that you are a company working in healthcare and you have a taxonomy that has 10,000 terms and you need to edit. Well, it's going to take you some time before you find the right category and tag the content, right? So what AI can do is AI can go through the content that you are writing. It can scan it, it can conceptualize it, it can summarize it, and based on it, it can suggest the taxonomy terms. And then you have the option, okay, those are actually fitting what is in there, and I want to use it. I want to use these terms to categorize my content. You don't have to if you don't believe it's right, but you will find that oftentimes this is going to be quite accurate because the understanding of the models of the content there is getting better every day. And this goes beyond just tagging your content. You can also think about tagging your assets and using these tags for again increasing your search capabilities, because you can then feed these results into other steps in the journey that are again going to speed up the whole journey. So the search of assets is one of examples.
Now, one question I would have on the content item itself here that we're kind of looking at on the screen, as it's generating the 4 or 5 choices of taxonomy from the content, is that in any way kind of looking up an existing taxonomy that you have in another set of fields or custom elements or even elements, or is it like kind of generating new ones every time as it needs to?
So there are multiple steps to that. First of all, this is generating the terms based on the content that you have there, but we're also looking into ways how we can feed different parameters of your project to our engine that actually leverages that. So the first phase is what you see, and in the next phases, which are actually closer than you think, we're looking into how the information about your projects can be leveraged. With a similar example is that we're looking how we can recommend you content when you are working on content. So let's say you want to link different pieces of content together because you have your content quite nicely structured. So when you want to link items, we'll tell you, hey, these items match the content of your content are those that you want to use, instead of you going through the library searching for that content, or maybe needing to remember how the content was named that you want to include. So again, we are trying to reduce the cognitive load that you have to do when you're working with your content. Again, a similar example could be when you are working on your content. Let's say you're writing a blog post about your new product line or an article about your product line. We will recommend you the content from your from your asset library. We will recommend you assets based on the content that you're writing about. So
Nice.
these are the options that you have today that many people don't realize.
Right. So like if it was a product company and I wanted to run a winter campaign and I knew my company sells snow blowers or shovels or whatever, I could say maybe recommend me the top 3 products to put on this campaign landing page, and it might match the theme of the campaign.
Yeah, and then the fun starts when you can actually start chaining different technologies together. So, for example, you will be able to eventually you'll be able to read the content that you were writing. The AI will understand it. The AI will create a prompt for you, and that prompt will be used in some of the AI generative tools to generate a hero image for that article that you actually want to use. Because, well, right now in Czech Republic there is no snow, so if I want to have a hero image for my snowblowers, well, I will probably need to travel elsewhere or just use something from the last one. Right?
Yeah, you can come right over to Michigan, Martin. We've had some snow, although right now today it's melted. However, yeah, it's coming, and I'm very worried that winter is coming.
Yeah, so you might need those snowblowers.
Yes, it's on top of our minds. All right, that's great. We've got another one, right?
Yeah, and let me again share. And the next example that I want to show you is actually how you can actually speed up your whole learning experience, or actually understanding the headless world, because what we've built is our own AI GPT assistant. And what you will see in this example is that we actually used it to create and write a code for a custom element. So this is particularly useful when you are trying to understand the product, because you're new to this, you want to understand the APIs, and you just want to achieve something. And what you'll see that the understanding of the assistant of the Kontent.ai is actually quite significant, and the code that it wrote works. It does what we want it to do, and you will also get instructions how you can actually run it. So you are able to read here that you just need to host it, and how we can run it in the application. And why I'm so excited about this, that applications of this are almost endless. So it is an assistant that will be able to give you insights from documentation. It can help you write migrations. It can help you to really model your content based on screenshots of your ideal landing page or site. So there's a lot these assistants can do. And what we're really trying to aim is really to bring it closer to the users so they can really experience it themselves, and essentially have a buddy all the time ready if they have some problems and need something, need understanding in detail of something. They can just ask, and it's right one question away, and you will get the information that you need. And sometimes it will even speed up your code if you need to write a code.
Right. So this is super interesting, because circling back to the start of our discussion, we said how we have to take the next step past just typical open generative AI that Chat GPT would give us. And it's really funny. So in case you're just listening, what we were showing on the screen a second ago was the Kontent.ai GPT assistant that was specifically implemented by Martin's team on the product, to where it knows about the documentation that's publicly available. It knows about best practices. It knows about what your implementation is. So it has that insight because it's specifically created for that domain of Kontent.ai, right? And the reason I'm saying all this is when Chat GPT first came out 13 months ago, one of the first things I literally tried as a developer was the code gen ability of Chat GPT. And I literally tried to make a custom element HTML example in the chat. And 13 months ago, it failed miserably. it wasn't even close to working the correct way. It had a couple of things because it did find some of the open documentation at the time, but just watching what I just saw and actually having it being accurate and being useful, that's exciting. That's something that gets me excited. I think it's very useful, as you said, for onboarding of new developers, learning the platform, going faster, saving us time. And it's not just using the same exact thing as ChatGPT. Because if you see those two screens, they might seem very similar on the outside, but the models that are behind those things, I know you guys have put a lot of time into on the product side. And I thank you for that, because I really honestly think that's going to help people in this community quite a bit.
And honestly, I believe these assistants really highlight what the future is going to be about. That you will be able just ask about the task that you have at hand, and it's going to really help you, or sometimes do the things for you.
Yes. That's awesome. I know. So we could probably sit here and talk about these topics for another like 2 hours, but we're kind of at the end of our time here. So a couple of things to wrap up. Number one, I just want to thank you for coming on. It's been great. I love the insight into where the product is going from the person who's in charge of it. And I want to ask you a favor. Will you join me again for another episode? Because I think there are more things we'd love to talk about on this and other aspects as well. So, all right, I'm going to hold you to that. Return visit coming up soon. You heard it here, everyone. And then second, if people are curious, just from a kind of a roadmap standpoint, is this something that's months away, weeks, days, hours? Where are we? When, if you're a Kontent AI customer or someone who wants to know more about Kontent AI, when could they expect it to see it in some of the product?
It's closer than you think, and some of the things that I've shown you today are going live this week. Awesome. And some of the things that I've shown you will take a couple more days and months to finish, but every day we're closer to this vision.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm super excited. I'm going to have something to do over Christmas break, so it's going to be great. All right, and then so I don't forget, because I'm actually terrible at this and I do tend to forget. If people are watching this and they have questions and they want to know more, what is the best way for them to find you or ask questions? I mean, I know there's a great like support system right in the product itself with the intercom chat. That's typically where we recommend people, but this is kind of like maybe something that's more in your wheelhouse to answer. So can people get a hold of you? What's the best way to do that?
So first of all, you can definitely check the Kontent.ai website, where we'll find all the information about the product. But if you have some specific questions, you can always reach out to me at LinkedIn. I always post there about different AI applications, whether it's business or technical. So definitely follow me there, and you can always send me a message. I'm more than happy to answer.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate it. And that's one of the best things I think about working with the Kontent AI team. From anyone from the CEO all the way down to product engineers to marketing to sales, everyone is generally open to just being able to talk to people, contact them. It's something I've really appreciated about our relationships over all these years. Is it's just an open, transparent, friendly company. So that's why we love doing this.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, Martin, I appreciate it. I'm also very glad that you don't have any snow yet over there. Hopefully it does not get crazy. Yeah. But I think we're going to wrap it up right here. So thank you. Thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
Okay, everyone. This has been the latest episode of the Kontent Rocks podcast. Until next time.